economy can't be fixed until Congress settles its differences. That's what Jerry Seib has written in his column, more or less, and he's going to explain why. And he joins us now from Washington, D.C. And Jerry, a great column. I will leave the subtleties of it to you because there's a lot of subtleties going on in what you explain, but that seems to be the message, doesn't it?
Well, the bottom line I'm writing about is pretty simple, which is to say that if you look at the last 60 years, the U.S. economy has grown at an average of 3.3%. If you cast forward over the next couple of decades, most of the forecasts say it'll grow at 2.3%. That's the real issue that ought to be debated right now in the campaign, not just the short-term stuff about why is unemployment still above 8% right now. And the argument, I think, is that government policy isn't responsible for slow economic growth, but it is probably dragging down the economy because it's creating uncertainty and not updating the U.S. economic system in such a way to foster growth. And the point I'm making here is that it's possible for Democrats and Republicans to come together and actually agree on some pro-growth policies, but it'll require both parties to leave a little bit of the ammunition at the door and come to some compromises.
Yes, and a few please and thank yous. One of the things that you write in the column is that both sides have got to realize that neither one is likely to be in complete control of the political side of Washington, D.C. And that's important.
Right, and I think that's an important point because I think what you see right now is both parties are waiting to get this clear mandate in which they'll have complete command of the government for a prolonged period. Then they'll be able to put in economic policies that they like. Well, I don't think that's what the political system is going to produce this year. It's going to produce split government and the need to get some agreement in the middle. I think if you drop the idea that you're going to be able to do it your way and accept the fact that everybody has to come together and do it, then you can start coming up with, say, for example, a corporate tax rate that's lower than the current one, but that doesn't blow a hole in the deficit. You can come up with some more pro-growth tax policies. You can come up with some trade agreements that both parties can agree are a good idea. But again, it requires leaving behind some preconceptions about how you would do it if you could do it your way 100%.
So one of the things that we know is that both parties want to see more growth, and that really is obvious. I mean, anyone who's studied economics a little bit knows that more growth will be the way to more jobs, and it will be the way to sort of getting everything right-sized with regard to debt to GDP. The issue seems to be in the way that is done. It seems to be there's a bit of a gap there. I know that on the conservative side, there's something called I think it's called the 4% Club, ways to get back to 4% growth. So taking that, and I presume there are similar or a similar idea on the left side, is there any sort of intersection there where they both agree on anything?
Sure, there is. That's kind of the point of the column. If you take the places in the middle where they can come to an agreement, as long as they'll accept half a loaf on each side, you could come up with some more pro-growth policies. You know, you can actually have a tax system that works better. You could lower the corporate tax rate. You could come up with a way to deal with regulations in a more sensible way. The problem is that right now nothing is happening on any of those things because both sides are waiting for the opportunity to do it the way they want to do it. I think past the election, that's the mindset that needs to be dropped. And if that can happen, there's plenty of room for agreement. Most sensible people in the middle, moderate Democrats and moderate Republicans, know what can be done and what's reasonable to do. They just can't get from here to there.
Okay, so Jerry, you're a smart guy. You've been in Washington for ages, and you always think in a level-headed way. How do they give them advice? Because we know they're watching right now. How do the moderate Republicans and the moderate Democrats, how do they come to an agreement as soon as they get back into office?
Well, I think it's probably a crisis of leadership more than a crisis of ideas. As I said, if you got smart people from both parties in a room, they would acknowledge what could be done, what's the realm of the possible. The trick is to find somebody or some group of somebodies who can create a kind of a center of gravity around those ideas. I think a second-term President Obama might be able to do it. A first-term President Romney might be able to do it. In the campaign climate, that's not really going to happen, which is kind of discouraging. The dialogue is pushing people apart. A president and some centrist leadership in Congress could make this happen after the election.